everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Universe Within podcast. This episode of the show is being sponsored by the Amazonian Plant Healing Center, the Temple of the Way of Light. It's a place I've worked at for a number of years, I think 8 years now or something like that. And when people ask me where I would recommend, if someone has interest in working with ayahuasca, always my first answer is the Temple of the Way of Light. If someone is interested in coming and working with ayahuasca in a ceremonial context with very skilled doctors in the Shipibo lineage, it's a really wonderful place that creates a really amazing environment that allows people to really go in and do very deep work. As I said, it's a place I've worked at. I can really attest to the quality of work there. They offer 12-day workshops, 6 ceremonies, working with 4 different maestros, 2 or 3 facilitators, yoga teachers, just an amazing support staff. And it's a really amazing experience and really very often a life-transforming experience for the people who come down. So if anyone is interested in that, the temple is supposed to be opening up tentatively in March of 2021, although with the pandemic that may be pushed back even further. But if you're interested in finding out more information, check out their website at templeofthewayoflight.org. In this episode, I sat down with my friend and my colleague, Merav Artzi. I've known Merav for many years now. We trained in the same lineage of this path of working with plants, specifically with tobacco and trees. She was really an integral part of my process of learning. We have worked together for a long time. We continue to work together, running tobacco ceremonies, running tobacco diets. She has a really fascinating story, and she's a really amazing person and a really amazing curandera or tabaquera, a doctor in that lineage of work. So it was really a pleasure and an honor to sit down and talk with her. I know most of her story, but even in this talk, I learned some new things, so that's always very interesting for me. And she has a lot to share, and so anyone who's interested in this kind of shamanic work or plant work, I think we'll take a lot out of this episode. A lot of people aren't really familiar with tobacco as a medicine, but here in the Amazon, it's considered one of the more, if not the most powerful plant medicine. Every plant has their own power, their own way of working, but certainly tobacco has a really long history of being used as a medicinal plant, and a medicinal plant of the highest order. As I was saying in this podcast, in some of the indigenous languages, the actual word for tobacco is the same word as the word for a doctor or a healer. And we get into that some in this episode. But it was really a pleasure to talk to her. She has a wealth of knowledge, and she's very intuitive and really connected to this work and has helped a lot of people. So I think you all will get a lot out of that. Merav and we were scheduled to run a number of plant diets in the tobacco tradition this year in 2020, but due to the pandemic, the worldwide lockdown, all of that work was canceled. But we're hoping to continue to do that in 2021, tentatively beginning to offer a workshop in February, and then potentially in May, but maybe even potentially earlier than that, maybe April too. A lot is still up in the air, but tentatively we're planning our first workshop, our first chance to work with this tobacco tradition, doing dietas in February. So if anyone is interested in that, you can check out my website at nicotianarustica.org or Merav's website at tobaccodiets.com, and those will both be in the show notes. So I hope you guys enjoy this show. As always, if you're able to support this show, that's a really big help through direct donation via PayPal or Patreon, patreon.com/Universe Within. There's a link in the bio. That's really appreciated. It helps me with funds and support to be able to continue to produce these shows and to do interviews with these people who I find to be very fascinating and really sharing this work from the people who are really doing this work on the ground day in and day day out, and who really have a depth of knowledge and a wisdom and I think just so much value to share as this work really begins to grow and to move out into the world. So if you're able to support through Patreon, that's a really big help. There's different tiers you can subscribe to, and it gives you early access to things like Q&As, early access to shows, bonus material, extended interviews, things like that. So that's a really big help. To all the people who have pledged through Patreon, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. If you're not able to do that, if you can simply go on the YouTube Universe Within podcast homepage and hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bells and like the videos. That's a really big help. And with the audio version, going on Apple Podcasts, subscribing to the show, and leaving a starred rating and a review. That really helps with the algorithms and getting the show out to a bigger audience. So thank you if you have done that, and thank you if you can do that. So without further ado, here is my conversation with my friend Merav. Okay, so we begin?
Yeah.
So, yeah, welcome. It's a long time coming. I think the people listening to this show, they've heard me mention your name a number of times. So I think they've been anticipating you coming on for a while.
Thank you for your patience, and Thank you for inviting me.
So we're finally doing it. So I met you in Iquitos a number of years ago. I was going through a kind of an intensive process working with tobacco and in this lineage of working with tobacco as medicine, a tabaquero, working with a tabaquero. You had finished that process a couple years before, and that's how we met, through working in the same lineage, and we had some mutual friends.
Yeah.
So what initially brought you to the Amazon? Because you're from Israel originally. You lived in Europe for a long time. So kind of what's your story? Who's Merav? How did Merav start in Israel, end up in Europe, and then in the Amazon, in the back of some random guy's house drinking tobacco?
Yeah. I was going through a difficult time in my life. In a very short period of time, I lost my mother, and I lost two very close friends of mine. And they all died from cancer. And in a sense, I was really identifying myself with my mother, and also with my best friend Alexandra that passed away. We were the same age. We shared similar lifestyle. And I sensed that there was something wrong with the lifestyle that I was living, with the Western lifestyle. And I felt that it's only a question of time till I will be sick myself. In that time, I was living in Amsterdam. I was living in a very big squat with political activists and artists. And I was doing a lot of video dance. And through this, I met a beautiful woman, Catalina, a dancer and a choreographer, and she introduced me to the magic of South America. Like through the work that she was doing, I was introduced to the magic of South America, and she introduced me to amazing artists from South America, and then invited me to come to Santiago, Chile, to do a project with her. And in that time, it kind of made sense to take some time off. And as I was getting ready for this journey, I was feeling like I am on a quest to look for the elixir of life, because I am poisoned myself by this lifestyle, and it's just a matter of time till I get sick myself. And so I went to Santiago, Chile with Catalina, and it just happened like this, that everyone that I met on my journey from the first days were talking to me about shamanism, and was talking to me about the Amazon jungle, and were suggesting me to go and drink ayahuasca. I was told that ayahuasca will give me the answers to all the questions that I had. And after being for a month in Santiago, Chile, I decided to go hitchhiking to the Amazon jungle. I met a man that drank ayahuasca with a curandero called Don Juan. When I was in my 20s, I read all of Castaneda's books about Don Juan. And when he invited me to go and drink with Don Juan, it was just bringing all the bells were ringing. And I felt like this is what I had to do. I didn't have a lot of money, but in that time I was doing a lot of documentary. I had 2 video cameras, and I decided to go and to do a documentary and hitchhike and travel to find Don Juan and drink ayahuasca and try to find answers to the questions that were bothering me in that time. It was very difficult for me to come to terms with my mortality and with the idea of death. And that's what brought me to engage and to go to Iquitos, to hitchhike from Santiago, Chile to Peru, and to find my way to Iquitos to look for Don Juan and to drink ayahuasca with him.
And so when you started drinking ayahuasca, was that something that really opened you up? Did you get answers, or what was that process like?
I think I came out with more questions than answers. It was my first ayahuasca ceremony was very, very scary. There was really nothing to prepare me to what I was experiencing. The shaman, of course, did not speak any English. There was a friend with me that was translating, but today I understand that the shamans of the jungle, they have their way of talking, using a lot of metaphors, and sometimes they don't really talk in a very straightforward way, but they explain by telling stories. And so my first ayahuasca ceremony, I didn't really understand what the entities that I've seen with the ayahuasca, what they have to do with my life. I saw a lot of nature spirits. What does it mean for me? How is this going to help me? It was very difficult to integrate this experience and to bring it to the everyday world. So I just came out of it like really very, very puzzled. It was a very, very dark, very, very scary experience for me, also because I lived a lifestyle. I lived in a squat, so we were doing a lot of parties. There was a lot of alcohol consumption, marijuana, and so I didn't came there prepared at all. And I think when you don't come prepared, sometimes the experience can be very dark, because the ayahuasca is clearing your body from all the low vibration, from all the toxics, and then in my case, I wasn't really able to connect with the light because the medicine was very busy cleaning my body. Mm-hmm. And so I saw a lot of scorpions and spiders, and it was a very, very dark, very scary experience. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we stayed and we did 2 ceremonies with Don Juan. I think the best thing that happened to me was that he offered me a Ohe cleanse. And that's a very powerful purge that cleans your stomach. And after the OHE purge, I felt amazing. I really felt like I cleared a lot. So I think I was not prepared. There was nobody there to help me to put things in context. I came from a very different world. I didn't know what ayahuasca is. I had no clue. And it took me a very long time to process this experience and to realize that actually it helps me to feel better. After I returned to Amsterdam, I realized that I am treating myself much better. I drink less alcohol. I eat better. I smoke less. And something shifted, but was really difficult. Everything was so gentle. It was really difficult to put a finger on it and to say what did the ayahuasca do for me. But the next year I found myself on a plane again to Iquitos. I really thought that I would never go back to the Amazon after the 2 ayahuasca ceremonies. But I realized that I need to drink more. And I came back after a year to find the same shaman that I worked with, and to drink some more and to see if I can go a little bit deeper and understand more. And I couldn't really rationalize what is it. It was just my heart was telling me that I need to go back there again.
Mm-hmm. And so you found him again?
Yes, I found him again. He was old. He was very sick. He was with pneumonia. So that was affecting the ceremonies, and it wasn't what I remembered it to be. And after some weeks, I went to the jungle, and I found myself in Barijal, drinking with Don Guillermo in the spirit of the anaconda. So that was a ceremony that was run by 3 Shipibo masters. And the head of the healers was Don Guillermo. He has an amazing connection with the ayahuasca, and the ceremonies were amazing. Were really, really, really powerful, really beautiful. The singing was incredible, and I found myself staying there for 1 month, drinking almost every night. I think apart from Saturday night that they were not drinking, there were no ceremonies. I met some incredible people. It was a very exciting time. Don Guillermo escaped from Pucallpa after a Dutch-French director did a documentary with him, Other Worlds, Ayahuasca. And then he was attacked, and his followers, his students, opened a center for him in the Iquitos area. And in that time, the film came out, so a lot of people came because of the film. There were a lot of artists there, philosophers, biologists, physicians. I think I remember that in the same year, a young man won the Nobel Prize in Physics, and he said that he got this discovery after drinking ayahuasca. So there were also a lot of biologists, a lot of physicians. So the place was such an interesting place. The ceremonies were great, and the company, the people that came there. There were also shamans from Europe that were coming with groups of people. So yeah, I think it was like a very exciting time to drink ayahuasca and to be part of this and to share with all these people. We were taking part in really big ceremonies. There were like between 30 and 60 people in a ceremony at night, and I felt that I'm starting to connect with the plant in a different way, and to understand better what it means to connect with a plant spirit, what it is to learn from a plant spirit. There I saw, after a month I was there, I saw a couple that came from Moscow. They didn't speak a word of Spanish. They just came out after 6 months of dieting in the jungle. I didn't know that this was possible. And one day they just showed up in our center. Apparently there was another center behind where people were doing diets. And when I saw them and I saw their eyes, they were very skinny, their hair was shaved. They were not allowed to use any perfumes, any cosmetics, so they shaved their hair. And I saw something in their eyes that I couldn't explain, but I didn't know what they were doing. What does it mean, dieting with plants? But in that moment, I realized that this is what I need to do. I was waiting patiently until they were able to be in our company, because after being 6 months in isolation, they were not able to sit with us in the dining room and eat, and they were eating in the maloka, and for a few weeks they were there until they came to talk to us. And I was really curious to hear about their experiences, about the diet that they have done for 6 months. And I realized that this is what I need to do. That I need to find a teacher, somebody that I can do the diets with. And I almost stayed in this point. I almost left my life behind in the Netherlands, because I was so excited about what I felt and what I saw and experienced. But when coming to change my ticket, I realized I cannot change my ticket. And then I remembered that I have a lot of responsibilities in the squad, that I'm running the cinema there, working with a group of programmers, and I cannot just disappear into the jungle. So I came back to Amsterdam with the idea that next time I will go back to Peru for a longer period of time, that I would go looking for a teacher, and I'm going to do diets. I had a very challenging year. So on the intellectual level, living in a squat, I had a really interesting job. I was running a cinema. I initiated a magazine for underground cinema in Amsterdam, because there were a lot of places like the squat where I was working that were showing alternative cinema, like non-commercial cinema. But emotionally, I was not well. I was not doing well. So as soon as I could, it took me another year again. I went back to the jungle, and this time I really took a longer period of time with the idea to find a teacher and to do diets. And I came back wanting to go to the spirit of the anaconda, and then I realized that the person I was working with Guillermo, was sexually abusing women that were coming to him for help, for support, because they have been raped, or and all his students left him. All the people that I knew from the place that were dieting with him, they all left. They supported one of his students, a Shipibo, and they helped him to open a new center near Rao. And there was a huge rivalry going on between the different shamans. And some of my friends that were helping the new shaman, the USKO, to do a tour in Europe and to raise money to open his retreat, were under heavy attack. And I was sharing the space with them, and I saw what was going on. I wasn't really aware of it. When I came, I wasn't really believing in black magic. I wasn't really aware of the rivalry between the different shamans. And I was very upset to see all that. And so I thought that maybe it would be best that I would find other people to work with. And in that point, I started to drink with different shamans in Iquitos. And I had a very fast learning. I came there very naive and not understanding that this is a forest that is full of brujos. I had no clue. I was thinking that people that work with this plant, with ayahuasca, must be connected to the light, must be full of light. And very fast I realized that it's really not like this, that they are human beings with the powers that they receive from the diet, from the allies that they have in the spiritual world, and with their weaknesses. They're not gurus. And in this process I was drinking ayahuasca with people that the medicine was not really clean, that their intentions were not clean. I had been through some abuse, an attempt of rape. I almost lost my life. Because I have to say that a woman that is going alone in the jungle has to be really careful, especially if you don't understand the culture and the mentality. You need to be really careful. I can also advise, like, for women, don't go alone to drink ayahuasca with somebody. Go with a friend. If there is a big group of people there, okay. But if it's you one-on-one with a shaman, don't do it. Or take a friend that will come with you. And if you sit with a shaman and something doesn't feel right, don't drink. Don't drink. Even if you paid and it feels off, don't drink. Just get up and go. In spite of all these difficult experiences, I continued to look for a healer to work with. I think that in some sense I felt like my life is depending on it, or that I really need some help. And in that point I was not so well, because I was drinking medicine with people that they were not clean in their intentions, and this was affecting their medicine, and this was affecting me. And I've been through an attempt of rape, so I was not in a good place. And I was very lucky that after a few months in Iquitos, I met a shaman that I thought that was going to be my teacher. I had a very basic Spanish. He didn't speak any English. So he took me to meet a friend of his, Marco, a man called Marco. Marco in that time had a restaurant, was running a restaurant in Iquitos. And he was asking Marco to translate. As Marco was translating, I understood that this shaman is not going to stay in Iquitos. He was an artist, a painter, and he had exhibitions, he had a tour in Europe. So it was very disappointing to find out that he has a tour in Europe and he's going to leave for 3 or 6 months.
Sorry, I'm just going to shut the
Later, it's okay. Okay, siéntate por aquí. Siéntate. So this shaman was leaving to have a tour to present his art in Europe. Not sure if he'll be gone for 3 months or 6 months. When I heard that, I was in tears. I was like desperate. I was like, where is this journey taking me? And why is this guy wasting my time? And the shaman was insisting that I would wait for him, because in his perception, if I found the teacher, then I should wait. I felt like, I'm there for my savings, and I feel like I need to do something now. I cannot wait for an unknown number of months. So I realized that this is not working again. And Marco was telling me, like, Merav, don't be upset. It's a different culture. It's a different concept of time. He thinks that you should wait for him. You feel that you cannot just, let him go and move on. So after the ayahuasca left, I was sitting and talking to Marco. Marco, in that time, lived for 9 years in Iquitos. And I was telling him a bit about my journey and what I'm looking for. And he recommended me to go to meet an ayahuasquero, Ernesto Garcia Torres. He said that he had been working with many healers in the time that he stayed in Iquitos, but there is one that is just operating on a completely different level. But he doesn't work with ayahuasca, rather he works with tobacco. And if I want, he will take me to see him the following day. And his name is Ernesto Garcia Torres. And so, the next day, I went to see Ernesto. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you immediately felt a connection, or like, this is what I want to do, or you decided to try one diet and see how it would go?
No, in that point, I didn't really have anything to lose. I came to Ernesto. I was not in a good place. In that time, I knew how to read a mapacho. When the mapacho is lit and is burning, I knew how to interpret it. Mm. So Marco and we came to Ernesto's place, and Ernesto has this tiny room where he receives his patients. So I was sitting in front of Ernesto, and Marco was at the door and was translating and telling, that I need some help, that I'm looking for some treatment. And I see Ernesto smoking this big mapacho, and I'm looking at the mapacho like this. And he looks at me and he says, "Do you want a mapacho?" And I said, yes. So he gives one mapacho to me, one to Marco. And I'm lighting the mapacho and I'm smoking and I'm looking at Ernesto and I'm reading the energy. So the first thing that I saw a tiger, which later I learned was the symbol of our lineage. The otoronga is the symbol of our lineage. And then I see like a very big smile, which is really Ernesto, isn't it? Whatever happens, you come to him, "Oh, Ernesto, I had this horrible night." And he smiles, "Oh, very good." Yes, very good. So this is really Ernesto. So I had like a good feeling that I can trust and I can stay there. So I stayed in the back, and Ernesto was coming morning and evening and giving me to drink something. And sometimes he would give me to drink tobacco, and like this, it was going on for 3 months. And after 4 or 5 days, I felt so much better. I felt like a veil was removed from my head, and then I went outside and I saw there were more people there dieting, and then I asked him, if he would take me as a student, would he agree that I would diet with him? And he said yes. The first diet that I did, I think it was just like harmonizing me. It was 3 months. The first diet I did was 3 months. And I never felt so good in my life.
And for someone who I'm sure a lot of people know what a dieta is or a diet, but if someone doesn't, what does that mean to do a diet?
What does it mean to do a diet? A diet is a process that is helping us to connect with the plants that we are drinking every day, and to build a relationship with them, to learn with them, to heal, and to connect very deeply with ourselves by disconnecting from the materialistic world. I guess I would say that. I don't know if I'm describing it well.
Because it's a period of prolonged isolation.
It's prolonged isolation, very small amounts of food, very, very clean food. It's basically, it's you, the plant, the spirit of the plant, and God. And where you are, it doesn't really matter where you're doing it. Just shutting the outside world and just going inward and allowing yourself to open to the spirit world.
Mm-hmm. So that first diet you did was 3 months, and after that you kind of felt like this is what I want to keep doing?
After that I had a period that, for me, this was a really long process of allowing myself to receive all these gifts and all this grace, because I was born with this belief that I am not worthy. So I was constantly creating obstacles for myself. So this process, it cost money. It cost like thousands of dollars to do. So I went back to Israel to find a means to finance my diets and my stay in Peru. And that took me about 8 months. And after 8 months, I came back and I started to do the diets with Ernesto. But the first year was kind of challenging. Because I was creating a lot of obstacles to myself. I loved the work with the plants. I loved the diets. I just didn't feel that I deserve all this goodness that the plants were giving me. And maybe it was not even something that I was conscious of. It just kind of something that I realized during the process. But the business I was creating online in order to support myself, my stay in Peru, was not going well, mostly because in that time in the jungle, it was really difficult to work online and to run a business on the internet. Also, the diets were putting me in a very in the state of mind that I felt like I just wanted to be by myself in nature, and it was really difficult to work on a computer. And so I started to have some financial issues. I lost my wallet. I lost all my credit cards. And at a certain point, I also had nowhere to live. And I was in the street and with no money in Iquitos. That was part of my process. I I think that for some people, as they start to do the diets, a lot of things that are not in alignments with them completely are starting to crash. Whether it is the work that they're doing, friends, partners, things are starting to crash. And that was part of the process that I was going through. So the first year, I think I did just 3 diets. I brought Ernesto a lot of students because I was really excited about what I was doing. I was in tears when my diets were closing. I didn't want him to close my diets. I wanted to diet all the time. But I had to deal with these core issues that were coming up for me. I mean, luckily, I met some amazing people in Iquitos that were supporting me, so I didn't starve. I didn't stay in the street. I met an amazing Israeli woman that were living in Iquitos in the time, and she had a floating house, a raft house, that she bought just a few months before we met, and she invited me to share this house with her. And after a while, both of us, we found work in a restaurant. So after a while, I lived in the restaurant, because in Iquitos you never leave a business empty at night. There's always somebody sleeping there. So I was working in the kitchen, and I slept in the restaurant, and I was saving money for my next diet. And as soon as I had some money, I went back to Ernesto, and I said I wanted to do a diet. And the next diet we did had really transformed everything for me. I went back to the restaurant after closing the diet. The owner had decided to open the place also in the evenings, so there was a lot of alcohol and cocaine on the bar, a lot of drugs, and I was just sitting there. That was also my bedroom, right? Just sitting there with a mapacho and just observing everything and waiting for people to leave. I think I didn't sleep for a week after the diet. But the first night that I got like a really good sleep, I had a really strong dream where I was in a town with houses from black stones, and there were children there that had teeth like predators, and they were chasing me. And I wake up from the dream on the couch in the restaurant, and I'm feeling my body, and I realize that I'm not afraid, and I'm in this stage between like a very lucid stage, not really awake, not asleep. I'm looking at the side of my couch, and I see the weapons that I received from the plants in my diets. And I realized that this is what I came to do. And it doesn't really matter what I think about myself. If I think I'm a good enough person, not a good enough person, this is my destiny. And that moment I realized that this is my destiny. And I can continue escaping it and creating a lot of obstacles in my way, but I will only suffer. And that was a very important diet and a very important moment for me, because after that I realized that I have to get out of the restaurant, find a means to finish my apprenticeship and do what I came here to do. And so within 3 months I had all the money to finish my diet. I went back to Ernesto and I said, okay, I'm moving back to live in your house, and I have all the money, and I'm going to finish all the diets and to do my maestria, and yeah, and that's what I did. I think there's this idea that if you do the 3 diets, you need to feel amazing. If you don't feel amazing, so maybe the diets don't work. But it is my experience that the diets, they create like these earthquakes inside of us. So the core issues, the contracts we came to the world with, they are coming up, and we need to address them. And this is part of the deep healing that we're experiencing while doing plant diets. That was my experience, and I did see it with other people as well.
So a lot of people, or certainly more and more people, have heard of ayahuasca. I was talking to a friend the other day, and they were saying even in Poland there's some like very famous rap artists, and he's rapping about ayahuasca. So I mean, certainly this medicine is really spread. Even where I was from in New York, I mean, I remember 10, 12 years ago, if you spoke of ayahuasca in Iowa, nobody had any idea what you were talking about. And now there's probably a ceremony every weekend in Brooklyn, or multiple ceremonies. So, I mean, that medicine is really spread. But it's interesting because ayahuasca comes from the Amazon jungle, and there's a number of plants that are considered master plants or teacher plants. And interestingly, I mean, from kind of my research, my understanding, if there was one plant that was actually singled out as medicine or a plant of healing, it was actually tobacco. Tobacco was the most commonly used plant throughout all the Americas, from the tips of Canada all the way to the tips of South America. In some languages like Ashaninka, the word for tobacco is actually the same word as the word for a curandero, a healer, a doctor. So in their language, a doctor is someone who works with tobacco, a tabaquero in Spanish. So maybe 2 questions. Why do you think tobacco isn't more well known as a healing modality? And maybe you can talk a little bit about what tobacco is and how that works. And because so many people, when they think about tobacco, they're thinking of cigarettes, and we've been told cigarettes kill you and they give you cancer and it's bad and you shouldn't smoke. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that this is exactly the reason why people don't know that tobacco is a medicine, because tobacco had received such a bad reputation, and we actually forgotten what it really is, right? People took this amazing plant and abused it, right? And so we have forgotten the ceremony of tobacco, the way of using tobacco in a proper way. When I say ceremony, I mean the way of using tobacco in a proper way. You can also look at Santa Maria. This is also an incredible medicine, but people just forgotten how to use it in a proper way, and so it got a very bad reputation. And tobacco as well. When you go to the dark side of the plant, and this happens when you abuse it, when you don't use it in a proper way, then things like addiction, disease, and death can occur. And this is why we don't hear about tobacco in the context of medicine.
Mm-hmm.
We know about it; it's very known in the world, but as a dangerous and addictive substance. And the second part of your question was,
Yeah, about tobacco. I mean, even when you're talking about doing a diet of tobacco, I think the first thing that comes to mind is, well, does that mean I just have to smoke a lot in the diet? That's how I learn from it. But tobacco, there's many ways that it can be taken. I mean, smoking is one, but
right, yeah, when we take tobacco in the diet, you really don't have to smoke at all if it doesn't resonate. What we prepare is a brew from the leaves of the tobacco, which we drink. Tobacco is a very, very grounding plant that is helping us to walk the earth. It cleans toxins from the body on all levels, and so help us to be very clear. This process of cleaning is also helping to remove obstacles and to make decisions and go forward in our lives. I think it's a very practical plant to work with, really, really helping and supporting us in our everyday life, helping to show us the way of how to be in the world. And when we do our diets, we are using the tobacco diet. We start with the tobacco diet. The tobacco is the base. It is said that the tobacco is the pillar of the shamanic house, because it gives us this stability, the roots, the grounding, and the clarity to act in the world. And then as we diet with other plants, we start to work with astral travel. So before we start flying to other dimensions, other worlds, the tobacco is really helping us to root ourselves, to ground ourselves, to get our stability here in this physical, material world.
mm-hmm.
Hope it's clear.
Yeah. So in the process, you and I were trained in, as you said, one starts by dieting tobacco,
Mm-hmm.
and then one moves on to other plants.
Yeah.
And some people may be familiar in Peru, in the Amazon, you have different types of healers. People like ayahuasqueros, they work with ayahuasca, or sanangero, they work with Chiricsanango, or one of the other Sanango
With all the
families.
sanangos, yeah.
You have tabaqueros, people who work with tobacco. You have paleros, people who work with trees. And very much in the tradition we were trained from, we're also working with a lot of trees. So once one works with tobacco and then one starts to diet other trees or other plants, it's often mixed with tobacco. So why are those plants mixed with tobacco, and why is someone dieting these other plants? Like, what's the purpose of dieting all of these other plants or trees?
Well, I think when you decide to do it as part of the shamanic initiation. Either you decide to do it because you want to be a healer, or maybe you want to do it in order to connect better with yourself, to learn more about yourself, and to connect with the world of nature, with the world of the plants. So this, I guess, there are different reasons why people decide to do a shamanic initiation, but I guess that would be the main ones, maybe. When you do diets, when you diet, you create bonds with the plants. So you have allies in the spiritual world, and so when you're coming later to work in a ceremony, And to heal, these allies are there to guide you and to advise you. Basically, this process, the process of initiation, is a process of opening you as a spiritual channel. So as you open up as a spiritual channel, these trees, plants that you have dieted are there, present for you to guide you. To guide you when you decide how much medicine you are going to pour. To guide you when you are sitting with somebody and you need to give him an advice or to do a diagnosis. They are called doctors and teachers. And they also, apart from being present there and protecting and advising you and guiding you and teaching you constantly, they also protect you. So when you do these diets, you build your bodies. You build strength in the physical body, in the emotional body, in your spiritual body, and you need this strength when you come in to heal people. Otherwise, when you don't have that, you have a chance of getting hit. So when we are serving a medicine, this is a medicine that just as an example, this is a medicine that I have prepared and I am serving it to the patient, even if I did not drink physically this medicine, energetically it goes through me. And I am putting now my strength and my energy to help this person heal. And when I have diets, I have the trees helping me and protecting me in this process. So it's almost like I'm taking what the person has on myself, or I'm sharing what he has. I'm giving from my strength, from my power to help him heal. And having diets protects me and helps me. The plants are these guides, these allies. They're coming to us in the dream, they're coming to us in a vision, and they are whispering in our ears as we are doing the treatments, and they are guiding us throughout our work, right? Letting us know if there is something we need to know about somebody, about for example, maybe this person should not drink tobacco because maybe he doesn't tell me everything about his health condition. So they're there to warn us, to help us, to guide us, to protect us. And this is also a big reason why we're doing diets.
Mm-hmm. And do you have a sense of why, I mean, not just in this tradition, but a lot of traditions, when people do diets, they're dieting trees, or sometimes trees are considered like the more powerful diets. What is it about a tree that makes it such a good medicine or such a good teacher?
I guess that it's the size of it, right? That it's big. It's so big. It has this protective bark, right? So I guess that it gives us from its strength. It's giving us from its strength, and to do this type of work, you need to have strength. To sit for hours in a ceremony, you need to do strength. To work at night, to heal people, you need strength. To deal with negative entities or low vibrations of people, you need strength. So I guess this is why you would go to trees. I guess that we also got our apprenticeship in Iquitos. Iquitos is a place where there is a lot of rivalry between the different healers, the local healers. And I feel that my teacher had trained me like a soldier, because he only lived in Iquitos, and this is the only reality that he knows. And he knew a lot of attacks because he was good in what he was doing, because he was successful, that was creating jealousy. And so this is another thing we take in considerations, is also attacks. And this is where your diets again come to your aid, and the allies and the strong trees. And this is why we dieted. No disrespect to cinnamon, but this is why we dieted, like really strong, powerful trees. Our teacher wanted to give us the most protection, the maximum protection, because of doing our apprenticeship in the jungle, in the Amazon jungle, that this is part of the culture there.
Yeah, and I think many traditions, if a curandero is asked what a big part of their job is, they would say that they're essentially a guerrero, they're a warrior.
Warriors.
And but that's an archetype, I think, in all shamanic paths. There's this archetype of suffering, like through the dieta, death, and also this, even like the archetypical hero's journey, or the hobbit. He has to become a warrior. He has to face his fears. He has to go into the cave and find the sword and overcome the dragon, which, interestingly, etymologically, the word for dragon is a winged serpent, and the origin of the word serpent is actually, I believe it means light, and a light that's reflected. So even the journey into the cave to face the serpent is actually like a reflection of all that. It's essentially a reflection of us, and we have to overcome that. Much like probably you were saying in your dreams, is overcoming these, finding our own strength. And, a common question people often ask is, like specifically about plants, like which plants are dieted, and why would you diet that plant? Does that plant have certain qualities, or is that something you're able to talk about? Maybe a couple examples of plants that could be dieted, why they're good.
I think that each one of us, apart from tobacco, it is possible that we dieted different trees. And so the trees that we diet during our apprenticeship are trees that are helping us to come to more alignment, balance, harmony within ourselves, so we can work, right? So we can offer our gifts as healers. So each person will have the individual trees that can give him what he needs. Let's say somebody needs like a father figure in their life, a role model, a father figure in their life. I would say Bajako Caspi, for example. So the trees, they have qualities that are physical. So all these trees, we said, they are teachers and they are doctors. So certain trees work on certain organs in the body, but then there is also the emotional energy that is correlating to this organ. Okay, maybe we know it from Chinese medicine. It's not so far, like lungs that correlates with sadness, liver, anger, kidneys, fear. Okay, so this is when we are looking at the qualities that these trees have. We look at what do the person needs emotionally, usually correlates to a certain organ, that this organ has a weakness in it, and so we know that the person needs this tree. But I have to say that a lot of time the process is not that logical. Many times I get the information about what is the tree in a dream. So when a person is coming, before the person will come to me, I will dream about the person arrival. And I will know what is the tree that the person is called to drink. And as I do the diet and I get to know the person better, I realize I start to see the logic. I start to see that why is this tree had been recommended to this person. So sometimes it's either I have the dream, sometimes the dieter has the dream, sometimes during the diet, one tree will call another tree that we know that this would be the next tree that the person or plant that the person will diet. So from my perspective, I understand the logic of it. I understand what people need psychologically after I spend some time with them, or what are their needs, what they're looking for. I understand that this plant is good for bones, and this plant is good for confusion and depression, but it would usually come in the form of a vision or or a dream or some kind of a realization that I have during the day, asking for this, or particularly connecting and asking for that person. I don't see it so much as a logical, like a prescription, like, okay, so your toe hurts, okay, you need... It's a very like an intuitive, like a knowledge that is beyond knowing. It's beyond the mind.
You mentioned these ideas like intuition, vision, almost like a sense of someone or something is whispering into us, this idea of dreams. A lot of information comes through dreams.
Yeah.
Is that something that you feel was really open to you through this process of like shamanic initiation, through a process of dieting? That's part of the process, is becoming more in tune with these things that are...
Yes, I think I was... I had it before in my life, but there was no space for that. So I had to oppress it, because otherwise I would be considered like crazy or something. There was nothing I could talk about with anyone, or maybe even recognize to myself that this is happening, because living in the Western world, there's no place for that. So then when I came to Ernesto's house, I felt like coming back home. I really felt like home, like I could accept completely all that I am, and I'm not crazy, Even though in my first diet, I had thoughts if I'm crazy or not, because some of these plants that we are dieting are psychoactive, and so you have very, very strong visions, even with your eyes open in the middle of the day. So that did occur to me that maybe I'm losing my mind. But he gave... he confirmed everything that I've seen, so he made me feel that this is okay, that I can talk about it, that I can recognize that I've seen this, that I am not crazy, and there is more to reality than what I was learned to believe. So in a sense, it was like moving from a black and white world into a world of HD, colors, intense colors. Yeah, and you just think like, wow, how come nobody told me about this before? How come I didn't know?
Yeah, and I think, to some people that may sound like a foreign concept, but, this idea of like losing your mind, there's this joke where in India, if you say, "Oh, I've lost my mind," people start, bowing down to you. Like, wow, they did it. And they're free of their mind.
Yeah.
But in kind of the West, if you say, I've lost my mind, then they send you to the psychiatric ward. And
Yeah.
I think one of the interesting things about this kind of what we would generically call shamanic paths is it's actually a process of losing your mind in a way, of seeing that the mind we're operating in is already crazy. We're all already crazy to varying degrees.
Yeah.
Because we believe our thoughts, we believe them to be real. And as you said, like these things of like, I'm not worthy, that's just a thought, but we believe it, and it's true. And it in a sense, it makes us crazy. And, I think maybe it was Eckhart Tolle who said, the only difference between a schizophrenic and a normal person is the schizophrenic just verbalizes what's going on in his mind. The normal person just keeps it in. But our minds are all crazy. And it's this other really common archetype of the dream state. And, as you were saying, the kind of opening us up to these different sensitivities. And I think to a lot of people that sounds really weird, but much as you said, I often like to use the example of like the spectrum of light. Like we only have access to a small percentage of that spectrum. And before we came along with technology like X-rays or infrared detectors, it wasn't real.
Yeah.
It was a myth. If someone said they could sense that, they would say that person is crazy. But then all of a sudden we develop a machine and we say, oh wait, that's actually real. We just can't sense it with the normal faculties that we have. And that seems to be one of the things that a lot of these plants do, is they open us up to actually reality. and that's why in many like shamanic traditions, they would say when one works, whether it's plants or fasting or breath or however they're going into that altered state of consciousness, they would actually say that reality is as real, if not more real. Because one, like the example with light, like in this reality, we can see certain things, but there's more to reality than that, and that perhaps these shamanic traditions, they're opening us to that full spectrum of light, to that full spectrum of reality. So what are some of the things, are you able to talk maybe some of the things you learned from your teacher, from Ernesto? Like, were there qualities that you learned about how to be a good doctor? Were there things that maybe he taught you, whether verbally or in a non-verbal way, that really kind of impacted you? Because someone used a good example. They said there's kind of three circles that come together, and when a process really works well, it's when all three of those circles, you've probably seen that diagram of like the three circles, and where they meet in the middle is kind of like the essence. And one of those is you. It's like the participant. And that's a huge part of the process, is the participant. We're not all coming to this work with the same intention. We're not all coming from the same place. So the participant is huge. And then there's the medicine. That's the second circle. What medicine are we working with? How is it prepared? What are the intentions that were put into the medicine? How is it being dosed? How is the space being held? Like, that's also super important. And then the third is the curandero, or the doctor. What is their intention? What is their training? What is their preparation? And kind of all of those really need to be like well in order for that process to really unfold.
Yes. I feel that Ernesto was working as or functioning as a key that helped me to open potentials that were dormant inside of me. I think that in order to work with spirit, you have to be, you need to be born with a channel that is very wide. Otherwise, you cannot handle well with astral travel, with traveling in dimensions, with hearing the voices, and so I think that I was walking the world and I was waiting for the right, for the right key to unlock everything that I came here with. And meeting him, he was functioning exactly like this. He knew how to open all this potential and how to help me to believe in myself, I think, and to direct it in a good way, right? I think every plant, a substance, ally, you can use, you can abuse, you can also use it for your selfish goals, ego. And I think one of the big things that he was working on with us is taking the work to the light, is bringing it into the light and channeling it so it would be for everybody's well-being. I think this, for me, this is one of the biggest things I think I received for him. I know that in past lives I also not always used my work for the good. I'm aware of that. That was some of my fears of coming to my power. And I think this is also one of the things that was helping me and still helping me with, is really to be completely who I am. So kind of to unleash everything that I came with, like all the power that I came with, and also to direct it in a good way, to direct this power, this energy, the gifts that I came with to the world in a good way.
What do you think are some qualities of a good curandero, a good curandera? Like, what makes someone? Because you know, like one thing you mentioned is like
knowing to put yourself as an individual aside, and just listen and be there for the other, not to be quick to project your own experience on what the other person is going through right now. Just really listen. Really listen and be there for the other.
And is that something that you think takes training? Like that's part of the process?
We can. What we are doing basically is we are holding space. We are holding space for people that are going through a process that we had been through ourselves. And the fact that we have been through that, and this is a very challenging process, and you are confronted with yourself in so many different ways. And so this gives you the authority to hold space for other people now that are drinking the plants and being confronted with themselves, and we are there, to listen, just to, sometimes we don't even need to talk, just to sit, just to be. to sit there so they're not alone in this, and just offering our compassion, right? And trying to contain the person as much as we can with everything that they are going through. We are just holding space. We are just holding space for people. We are guides and mediators between the worlds. I can help people to put what they're going through in some kind of a context. I can listen to their dreams, to their visions, what they've been through at night, what they heard from the plants, and just help them to integrate all that.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like a really important key. You spoke of this idea of, like we went through this process that was very challenging, and many things had to be confronted. And so that idea of being a guide is, one has to have been guided. To hold a space, one has to have had that space held for them to be able to know how to do that. And not on an intellectual level, but on an experiential level. If I've been through a process, if I've been through an experience, then I can genuinely help someone from a place of an experiential knowledge, rather than, I read this in a book and it says, I need to say this to this person, or da-da-da.
Yeah, I understand how it is to be nauseated, not to sleep all night, to be hungry, to feel sadness, frustration. So in that respect, I can contain them and try to see what can I do to make them feel a little bit more comfortable. An extra pillow, hot bottle of water. I'm a caretaker. This is what I'm here to do.
Another question sometimes people are curious about is, many people see it in even ayahuasca ceremonies. Maybe they've attended ayahuasca ceremonies, and they see the curanderos often smoking mapacho. Mapacho is just the local name for cured tobacco.
Yeah.
So they're either smoking a mapacho, like a cigarrillo, or they're working with a pipe. So a lot of people have a question, like why are the healers smoking in ceremony? What is that doing for them? And maybe if you can talk a little bit about the pipe, like why it's often considered like this special thing. People have a pipe, there's a reverence for it, like nobody can touch it, nobody can look at it. It's like,
I guess this is I guess one of these things that you need to experience. I can say that for me the pipe is an extension of my body. My plants that I have dieted, I communicate with them through the pipe. They reside in my pipe. My pipe is guiding me. Like when I wouldn't say the pipe is guiding me, because it sounds like we are pipe worshippers. No, through smoking the pipe and smoking the tobacco, it helps me to connect with my guides and my teachers. The smoke from the pipe or from the cigarette is feeding the plants that are in our body. This is their food. So as I'm feeding them, I am able to connect with them further. I can put an intention, and working with the tobacco will intensify this intention. So we said that the smoke is the way of our prayers, our intention to be carried to the higher world and to be heard. That the spirits, they love the smoke of the tobacco. They love the tobacco. This is why we put the tobacco in all of our offerings as well. And this is making them more susceptible to listen to us and to connect with us. I think the connection with the pipe is it's very personal, and each person is using the pipe according to her or his unique gifts that he had developed during her process. But yes, the pipe is really important to me. It is my way. It's one of my main ways to connect with my guides, and also potentially can provide me a lot of protection as I'm serving medicine, as I'm clearing a space, from things that that enter through your mouth energetically. So within a ceremony, keeping a safe space in a ceremony, in a diet, clearing my house, going into other spaces and clearing them. Yeah. So it's very protective and a powerful means of communication. The mobile phone for the spiritual world.
So if probably most people listening have never worked with tobacco. I mean, maybe they've smoked, but they've never drank tobacco. They've never taken it in the way it's used to heal. So how would you kind of describe that experience of how does one prepare for that? What happens when one goes to ceremony or one is in a dieta, one drinks it? What happens in their body? What happens in their mind? How long does it last? Like, what is that experience? Obviously, it can be different for different people, but kind of overall.
Yeah, I guess if you decide to drink a shamanic plant, then you need to have a clear idea why you're doing it. An intention, a motivation, because the process will challenge you. So it's good to have a clear motivation in mind that you can connect with as you are drinking it. So it makes sense why you're doing this sacrifice. A good way to prepare would be to eat alkaline food. In the case of tobacco, I would say 3 days in advance. To stop, if you are smoking marijuana or any other substances, I would stop it at least a week before the ceremony. As well, sex, I would say 3 days before with tobacco as well. For me, before a ceremony, a good way for me to prepare for a ceremony is to meditate, is to pray. And this is usually what I do a couple of hours before the ceremony. Sometimes I take a plant bath, even like a nice shower before ceremony can also help. In a ceremony of tobacco, we opened with a prayer and with a song to the spirit of the tobacco. So asking that we have a good journey and asking the spirit of tobacco to be with us. We start the ceremony by drinking a good size of tobacco glass. I always advise to be concentrated and centered before drinking it, and really drinking it in one go. The tobacco is very liquidy, unlike the San Pedro and the ayahuasca, and it's very easy to get it down. After you drink the tobacco, sometimes as it lands into the stomach, you have this sensation of burning. It doesn't last for a long time. So whatever you do, just try to breathe into the experience and keep in mind that this is temporary, that it will not stay like this for a long time, that it would pass. So just breathe, observe, and just let it go through you. Just let it go through you. With tobacco, we drink a lot of water. So we always have like a big bottle of water nearby, and I advise to drink a lot of water with the tobacco. So like 2 to 3 liters of water, because it helps the tobacco to move in the body, to clear the toxins, and then you have a quick and easy and very smooth purge. It's like a tap is opening and everything is being released, and you feel so good after that, because you just release so much toxins and so much phlegm, and after the purge you usually feel great. Very, very energized. Throughout the ceremony, I do prayers and songs that helps to direct the medicine in the body. And I just connect to the people that are in front of me and trying to see, what is needed, what kind of work is needed in the moment. And this is being expressed through the songs and through the prayers that I'm doing. Usually about 40 minutes into the ceremony, we do the snorting of the tobacco. So a tobacco ceremony is usually a very strong, energetic and physical purge. A lot of things are moving. It's different in this respect from the diet. The diet is more focused about creating this bond with the plant that we are dieting, but a ceremony is a lot about purging. Usually we will not let a person leave the ceremony without purging at least once, right? And drinking the whole amount of water that they need to drink. So the ceremony is a lot about moving, clearing, moving toxins, stuck energies in the body. It's a lot about that. The drinking of the tobacco is helping, to clean the intestines, to clean the blood from toxins. We know that a lot of disease are coming from the stomach, from the intestines, from having intestines that are not clean, and from this phlegm, a lot of diseases are starting in the body. So the drinking is really to clean the intestines, to clean the blood, and to take these toxins out as you purge. And then we come to the snorting of the tobacco. So it's the same liquid that we drank, but this time we take it through the nose. So there is a technique how to do it in a way that is not very disturbing, that is not very unpleasant, in a way that is soft, that is loving. So as we take the tobacco through the nose, we basically start to open a lot of energetic blockages. So a lot of all the motions that are stuck in the body are starting to move. And in the same time, the tobacco that we are taking from the nose is connecting with the tobacco that is still there in our stomach, and there's a lot of phlegm that is coming out. There's phlegm that is coming out of the stomach, and there is phlegm that is coming out from the sinuses, because as the tobacco is going up through our sinuses, it's clearing the phlegm that is stuck there. And usually what people are experiencing is like moving from a sky that is full of clouds to a blue, clear sky with the sun coming out. So the thoughts are calming down significantly. So the inner voice that we constantly hear in our mind is really coming down. And there is a sense of clarity and peace that is spreading. I just love snorting. I think it's such a powerful tool. Such a powerful tool. Also, if we feel that if irritated or like we got hit energetically from something, snorting works wonders. For people that are confused, that has difficulties to come to decisions, depression, mania depressia, bipolar, all of that, snorting is a gift, is huge. It's huge. And the snorting is also helping us to connect very much to our dreams. So the snorting is really good to open the dream world and to help us to remember our dreams. And tobacco is not really it's not a visionary plant per se, but it really communicates with us a lot through the dream world and through realization that we receive in the time of the ceremony, throughout the ceremony, and can also be memories, like memories from our childhood, from times when we have been very young, even in our mother's womb. There's all of this is coming up now, but we can see these events, the events from the past, from a different perspective, because this time we are reliving it, but we are held by the spirit of the tobacco. So we can look at things that we were afraid to look at or felt uncomfortable to look at, and get some more perspective on it. Or have like receive different other ways to relate to it. Tobacco ceremony is usually not a long ceremony. So we clear, people purge from up, from down. We clean them well, and then we send them to sleep and to dream with tobacco and to connect with the dream world. And then if they want, can talk to them about the dreams, because the dreams that we experience when we are under the effect of the tobacco are very different than the everyday dreams. So if it things that seems trivial, it could be the medicine communicating with us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Is there anything else that you feel called to talk about or to share?
I think we covered a lot of ground. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously with the pandemic, I mean, in Peru, tourism hasn't been here for the last 8 or 9 months or something, but hopefully next year things will begin to open up. And yeah, it's it's maybe something that I'll put in the show notes about how to connect with you, and if someone wants to reach out to you to work with you, what's the best way to do that?
I would say through my internet site, tobaccodiets.com. Yeah. Tobacco Diets. Yeah. Because then is also an opportunity to read more into depth about tobacco, about the experience of the ceremony and the diets. And you can always post me if they have any questions, and always happy to answer.
Yeah. And what's a good amount of time you would recommend someone comes to do this work?
The diets that I do, they are usually 7 to 15 days. As we are combining tobacco with the trees or the plants that we are dieting, the process is pretty intense. So to do So to start, it's good to start with 7 or 15 days. And if you come into Peru, I live in the Sacred Valley. I live in a high altitude. You want to take some time to acclimatize to the altitude before you start the diets. So I would say take like 3 days to acclimatize, to rest from your journey, and then add to that the time that you want to do the diets, and take another 3 days to rest from the diet before you embark on a journey again. As well, the valley is so beautiful. If you're here, you want to consider to take some time to travel too. I live close to Machu Picchu, not too far from Cusco, and there is a lot to see and to experience. And again, I'm also open to advise in person according to your needs.
Yeah, wonderful. And we were supposed to work together quite a few times this year, but because of the whole
pandemic,
we canceled. But potentially next year, maybe we were going to find some dates. So when we figure that out, we can add that to the show notes too. And sometimes that's a beautiful thing to be able to work with a man and a woman. We come from the same lineage, the same tradition, and for my part, it's a pleasure working with you. I've learned a lot from you, and I
feel the same.
For anyone who's interested in coming, I think you do beautiful work, and it's as you said, it's really having gone through an intensive process is kind of what makes a person in a way who they are, and the intentions they bring, the tradition they carry, how they work with people, the compassion, the heart, the connection to doing good, to light, and I think you embody all of that. So people are in good hands if they come to see you.
Very nice of you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for doing this. It's been a long time in the making. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah. Wonderful. All right, everybody, that is it. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. I really enjoyed talking to Merav. She is really a wealth of information, and I was really happy we were able to connect. We've been trying to do this podcast for a while, but various things have come up, and it's been delayed a few times, but finally we were able to do it. So thank you to Merav. And like I said, I hope you enjoy that. The next few episodes, I'm not exactly sure the order. I'm going to be going back to the States for Christmas, so I'll be doing some Zoom interviews, but I'm still not exactly sure the order. But there's going to be some really good guests on, so you guys will have something to look forward to. And as always, if you're able to help to support this podcast through direct donation via PayPal or Patreon, that's deeply supported or deeply appreciated. Patreon is a really good option. It gives you things like access to early episodes, Q&As, extended interviews, bonus material. So that's a really big help. And it's one of my favorite things now when I see that little Patreon notification bell go off and someone has pledged. So to all the people who have done that, thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. And if you're not able to do that, simply going on YouTube, subscribing to the channel, turning on the notification bell, liking the video, that's a really big help. And for the audio version, going on Apple Podcasts, subscribing to the show, and leaving a starred rating and a review. That really helps to get this show out to a bigger and broader audience. So thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next episode.